This is the developer of Core here. I'm going to talk a little bit here about the chunk loading that's going on right now. As you can see, as the world loads in here, it loads in with the right up and down vertically like that. That's due to this being multi-threaded. And as the world disappears like that, again, it's multi-threaded, so the generation pattern is actually a result of getting the data out of a thread. Currently, the whole world is being regenerated every time I do this, which is slowing this down quite a bit. I would like to avoid that. I'm going to show off some of the code for it here in a hot second. Alright. Basically, what I'm doing here is I'm getting the player position is God elsewhere. It's essentially this world center. I'm getting the player's X, Y, and Z position, calculating all the chunk positions, putting them into an array. Then I'm iterating over the array here to get the desired chunk positions. It's going through essentially, it's updating essentially all the chunks with new chunk positions. But if I uncomment this piece of code here and do that, essentially now what the code should be doing is it should be getting all the current chunks, getting their positions and checking to see if the new position array contains any of the old chunks, and if it does, it essentially doesn't add it to the queue here, which is essentially a data type that it's a bit like a it's basically a stack essentially. The first thing you put in is the first thing that comes out, so essentially, and that gets ran over on a thread there. Well, yeah, I mean that's running on a different thread, but it's essentially getting the data out of it on the tick on the update function, and that's why it loads in the way it does. Right here I've uploaded it so that it should only be loading the chunks that aren't in the new essentially array of positions, which would be the ideal solution. But as you're going to see here, it doesn't exactly work right, as it basically goes along like that, loads in new chunks, and as you can see, it's suddenly doing this over here, like this. Now, if I hit the L button there, you see a 0 pop up on the screen there. Essentially what I did there was I shut off the terrain generation around the player so that I can actually go outside the chunk boundary here and actually take a look at this whole mess from outside so that I can actually get a better look at what is essentially happening here. Essentially, again, you got this mess here that's not generated properly. You got all this over here. There are invisible chunks up top here that you can't see because this is three-dimensionally chunk loaded. I can show that off a bit later when I turn the chunk loading back on with the normal chunk loading implemented. So let's see, this side actually doesn't seem to have any weird issues, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on over there. But, again, that's sort of the weirdness that's going on right now. I would love to speed up the chunk loading, because right now with the chunk loading as slow as it is, it's functional. It doesn't lag at all, but it definitely makes playing the game a bit rough, because you have to wait for the chunks to catch up to the player, and it's not ideal. As the chunks load back in here now that it's proper again, I'm actually going to show off some of the vertical chunk loading here in a second. by going down, of course. Again, the chunk loading is actually so slow that it's actually very easy to outpace it, even when going down like this from the top of the area. As you can see, I've already outpaced it, and the world is generating further down. If I keep going down, it'll just keep generating more and more terrain downwards infinitely. It won't generate terrain above the plane that we've seen so far, but that's because I've got it set to a maximum height, so any chunks that actually generate above that will be empty chunks that you can just build into infinitely. Biomes can be put up there later if I decide to put stuff up there, but right now this is what the terrain generation is looking like. It's functional, but it's a bit slow for my taste. Again, it's not bad enough to halt any further progress, but it is something that's going to need to be ironed out in the future, definitely. If any of you know that how to fix this and get this working better, I'm all ears. I've tried a whole bunch of stuff, including adding on extra code that gets essentially one chunk further in outside the bounds of the new world position array. And again, it just, for some reason, doing it like that produces those weird results. And yeah, again, moving around like this, it's super slow when it loads, and again, as you can see, when going back that way, it essentially force regens the entire chunk, and it's very easy to get caught in that. Right now, I would love to have that be faster. And any ideas you have on how to fix that would be nice. Again, so leave your thoughts and comments on that issue in the comments below or on Twitter if you see this there. So I guess this is signing off.